You wake up, put on your Ray-Ban Meta glasses. You're living all in. You realize you need coffee. So you say,
"Hey, Meta, how do I make a latte?"
Brew 2 shots of espresso.
After Meta AI gets you caffeinated, you're ready for some beats.
"Hey, Meta, play hip-hop music."
You head to meet some friends, but can't remember the place.
"Hey, Meta, call Eva."
Ray-Ban Meta glasses, the next generation of AI glasses. Just say, "Hey, Meta," to harness the power of Meta AI. Shop now at meta.com/smartglasses.
Every day when you log into ChumbaCasino.com, the ultimate online social casino, you get a free daily bonus. Imagine if you got daily bonuses in other parts of your life.
I chose French fries over loaded French fries.
I asked Stuart from accounting about his weekend, even though I don't care.
I updated my operating system without having to call tech support.
Collect your free daily bonus at ChumbaCasino.com now. And live the Chumba life. VGW Group. No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. See terms and conditions. 18+.
Experience sensational sound with Vizio's Soundbar Collection. Starting at just $99, there's a soundbar for every budget. With Dolby Atmos in every model, cinema quality sound is closer than ever. This collection features Vizio's simplest setup yet, so you'll be streaming your favorite iHeartRadio playlists in no time. Whether you're looking for a simple setup or the cutting-edge Elevate SE with 360-degree sound immersion and auto-rotating speakers, Vizio has you covered. Head to Best Buy or Amazon to find the perfect Vizio soundbar for you.
Want to chime in on what's happening with your KFAN program, your favorite KFAN program, which is whatever we're calling this show.
The Progrum, someone said. The Progrum works, but that leaves you out, though.
I'm the Grum part.
The Progrum.
Oh, yes.
That could work.
Yes. Make your voice heard on the Bradshaw and Bryant text line. Let us know what you have to say by texting your message to 64686. That's 64686. Standard message and data rates apply.
And we've got plenty of people texting in. If you got any Minnesota Wild hockey questions, now is your chance to shine. For most of the NHL season so far, the Wild have been the best team in, I was going to say the USA, the best team in all of North America. I mean, they were so red hot, they were damn near skating on water, but lately it's been a little bit more up and down with more downs than ups, dropping 5 of their last 7, including last night's 3-1 loss to the Ottawa Senators. We'd like to welcome in hockey expert Michael Russo. And I call him a hockey expert, but a lot of people don't know. We talk and text more than people know, and I often DM Russo and tell him how wrong he is and how I disagree with him on most of his stories. And we tend to get into it quite a bit. Isn't that true, Russo?
That's actually Britt Blakemore. That's you.
I set you up. I threw the alley-oop in the air and set you up for that one. Russo, thanks for joining us today, man. How's it going?
I'm doing well. I can't believe Zach's working 2 days in a row like this. You should have seen doubleheader yesterday. Worked his butt off in the press box, which is always, you know that he's doing that because he made Fallness sound good. So, so I'm very impressed that he's pulling double duty here today.
I never thought of myself as a miracle worker, but the way you put it there, I make it making fullness sound good. I don't know how I do it, but these hands are divine, apparently.
It is a feat to be able to see. It's such a treat, I should say, to see Zacho doing his thing when he's out in the Wild. The Minnesota Wild weren't necessarily doing their thing last night, Russo. They fell 3-1, and just going. I didn't get a chance to watch a whole lot of the game. I watched the highlights, and I'm going off of your story here, but it sounds like the first line was having a bit of trouble, and just the offense in general was having a bit of trouble getting going there.
Yeah, well, I mean, the offense in general has been having trouble for about a month and a half now, and so there's a lot of pressure on that top line, and that's why I just wonder, how long John, especially if Kaprizov's going to miss tomorrow's game against Nashville, how long John Hines can, maybe load up that top line, maybe throw Eriksson Ek there, maybe you start with Johansson there and put Boldy on a line with Eriksson Ek. They've played well together, and at least you get a little more offense on 2 lines because this has been now a long time where their depth players are providing literally no offense, none whatsoever. And so But yeah, the top line just had, spent a lot of time in their own zone last night, gave up a bunch of high danger chances when they were on the ice. And it was largely their own doing because they weren't taking care of the puck. And, anytime you turn pucks over at either blue line, you're going to wind up pinned in your own end and giving up a bunch of chances, tying goal. The first goal last night was largely on them, starting with a turnover that they had in the offensive zone. Boldy's been in a huge funk now for about 5 weeks. He just throwing pucks away, obviously taking penalties and not scoring. And so, it's been a little disconcerting because especially with all the injuries they've had lately, this is where you really want to see Matt step up, and he's really done none of that.
I mean, you look at this, 82 game season. Obviously, we were just talking about the Minnesota Timberwolves and their struggles. When you see this kind of mini slump happening here, Russo, do you see them coming out of this? Is this something that's going to stick around? How long can this team? Or I should say, how much of a bump in that first part of the season with all those wins? How much of a cushion did they build themselves here? When do they really need to start recovering from all this?
Well, I do think that it needs to start to happen because this has been about 11, 12 games now where they've just been way too up and down. And when they lose, they're not getting overtime loss points, which I know is everybody's pet peeve that hates hockey to begin with. But I mean, that is how you make the playoffs, and the NHL are getting those points. But they've suffered a lot of regulation losses. They don't have a ton of cushion anymore. I mean, they're only 6 points up on a playoff spot. There are some teams that are really on fire. Winnipeg's gotten it together. Vegas has just been awesome. Colorado's starting to play well. LA's had a much better season than any of us had expected. So, the one thing sometimes, and I say this a lot, but sometimes we get in our own little bubble and we don't pay attention to what's going on around the league. And the reality is that there's just this is the National Hockey League, and teams are up and down often. And this is the first blip in the Wild season. But if you look at last night's scores, and I think Ottawa's a really good team. They've won 9 out of the last 12. You look at their roster. I think they're going to make the playoffs. They're in a playoff spot right now. But you look at last night's scores, and Buffalo won in St. Louis. Anaheim beat Edmonton. Detroit came back and beat Washington. Montreal went into Tampa and trounced them. So, this is not just, what's going on in Minnesota. We're in that sort of dog days of the season. But to get to your original question, they've got to get out of it. And my biggest concern right now is because of the injuries, they've just sort of lost their structure, their game that made them so good in the first 2 months of the season when they always had the lead, never gave up leads. And really would have the ability to rally, all that type of stuff. And their overall structure has just sort of disappeared just because they've had to use so many patchwork lineups here for the next little bit. So, they got Kaprizov out. Middleton, it's been a huge loss to them. They've lost 6 out of 9 with him out of the lineup. They got Eck back yesterday, but it just isn't, getting healthy bodies back isn't just going to magically make them better or revert them to the way they were in the 2 months of the season. And when you don't have a lot of practice time, today was a scheduled practice that they canceled. When you don't have a lot of practice time because of how many games these guys are playing, they have 17 games coming up here in January. It makes it very difficult to sort of, find your game again. So that would be my biggest concern. But I do think this is a blip in the radar and that they'll figure this out.
Talking to Michael Russo of The Athletic at theathletic.com. Russo, the text line, ever since I asked people to chime in, it's blowing up. Everybody wants to know what the Wild are going to do at the trade deadline. I'm seeing people mention Sidney Crosby. I've seen Brock Nelson be mentioned. What do you think the Wild, you think you mentioned depth just a second ago and their lack thereof. Do you think there's some moves to be made? Do they even have the cap space for room to moves to be made? What do you think the Wild are going to do around the trade deadline here coming up?
Well, they were, first of all, on the Crosby question, Pittsburgh has sort of, found its game lately. They've won, I think, 6 of their last 10, and they've, kind of gotten, I think they're a point out of a playoff spot. So if that's the case, I mean, Sidney's going nowhere. And anyway, if Sidney ever leaves there, like, you could bet he's going to go want to play with Nathan McKinnon or something like that. But in terms of Brock Nelson, I mean, that is legit stuff. And I do think that the Wild all season long at the start had done a great job of accruing cap space, to try to, make it, because Bill Guerin recognizes that they've got to go get a top 6 forward, come trade deadline. And and I think that Brock Nelson is the guy that he has been eyeing. The problem is that when you have as many injuries as the Wild have, and then you go over the cap and go into long-term injured reserve to be able to exceed the cap, that stops you in your tracks of allowing you to accrue cap space. And if the Wild don't accrue cap space by the trade deadline, they just can't afford Brock Nelson. And by the way, I'm not convinced that the Islanders will trade Brock. Lou Lamoriello has a long history of wanting to keep guys he loves, even if there's a chance of losing them for nothing. So even if the Islanders are out of it, I'm not convinced that Brock could even be had. But we'll see. I mean, but this is why the Wild have been doing a lot of cap gymnastics lately. Like today, they sent Brandon Gauntz down to the minors just for 2 days. That saves them $8,000 basically. But that stuff adds up as you get closer to the March 7th deadline. So I think the Wild would love to add somebody, but if Middleton's out for another month, which is what I'm hearing could be possible, it just makes the math really difficult on being able to afford a real substantive move at the deadline. But I know that Guerin is motivated to do so if he can.
It'll be interesting to see with the trade deadline approaching. Russo, I got to ask you, obviously, it's the elephant in the room. Everybody wants to know what's going on with Kirill Kaprizov. Should we be concerned? It seems like a lot of, hockey in general, there's a lot of always kind of mystery shrouded around these injuries, but it seems like we don't know a whole lot about what's going on with KFAN.
Yeah, this one I definitely think is minor, but they're trying to make sure that it stays minor and doesn't become major, and that's just keeping him off the ice. Sometimes this guy, he pushes so much in games and they got to drag him off the ice after practice. He's out there a half hour after. And I think that stuff adds up. He pushes so hard that at times, I think he feels some lower body soreness, and that's something that's typical for him. But this one has lasted a little too long and has started to really, inhibit one, his play, but two, his ability to recover after games. And so I think that, the way it sounds to me is that he's got some sort of groin strain. And if that's the case, I think they just want to keep him off the ice and try to get him better and make sure that that this doesn't, in the long run that he's going to be okay. So especially with them not practicing today, I'd be surprised if he plays tomorrow. Now, is he coming up? Is he going to be on the road trip to Washington and Carolina? It wouldn't shock me if he is. Maybe you don't play him both games. They're not practicing Wednesday. They are supposed to practice Friday in Raleigh. So maybe, you practice him that day and try to get him back into the game in Carolina on Saturday. But this is all total conjecture on my part. But when we talked to Bill Guerin a couple days ago, he made it sound like this is minor, but that he'd probably miss a game or two, probably not of his own liking. But this is more the Wild trying to be careful with him and make sure this doesn't blow up into something significant. And, earlier last month, Lauko had some sort of abdominal issue as well. And he did come back to the lineup and eventually aggravated it. And now he's out of the lineup for a significant amount of time. So they definitely don't want that to happen to Kirill.
Yeah, sometimes it's best to just play it safe, especially when you got Dollar Bill Kirill on the show. Are you a Kirill the Thrill guy or a Dollar Bill Kirill guy?
I'm a Kirill the Thrill guy.
Really? Everybody says that. I love Dollar Bill Kirill.
I know. It's either one's good, and he's earned both. That's for sure. He is. we are seeing it right now, just how significant he is to this team. He's had an unbelievable year. Clearly, if the Wild make the playoffs, he's going to be in that Hart Trophy running, and it's just it's been remarkable watching him this season.
Last one for you, Russo. I don't know if you're a New Year's resolution guy or not, but give me one New Year's resolution for you, and give me one for the Minnesota Wild.
Yeah, I've the same one forever, and that's lose weight, and it never seems to, work. So that would be the one.
This is your year.
Yeah, that would be the one. In terms of the Wild, they've got to fix their penalty kill. I don't want to get all technical on what I think their New Year's resolution needs to be, but if they don't fix their penalty kill, it's just not gonna. It's this where they want to go is not going to happen, and it's been a major problem. It's 30th in the NHL. They've lost 7 straight games, I think it is, when they've given up a power play goal in the game. They're all coming from the same spot, like every single one come from the right circle. One-timers like Josh Norris, Clayton Keller. We've seen that lately, and they're just not they're not playing well on there. And thank goodness for them that they're extremely disciplined, or this would be really, really ugly. But they've just got to figure this out. They rarely get a save on the PK, although I hardly blame Gus for last night's goal. That was a wicked shot. They don't win draws on the PK. And what concerns me too is that some of their defensemen, they're supposed to be great, 5-on-5 defensive defensemen, have for now 2 years struggled on the defense on the PK, and it makes no sense to me. And the biggest one is Jonas Brodin. I just don't understand why he's out there for so many of these goals. Bogosian's been out for a ton lately. Husadina, Foligno. They've got to figure that out.
Well, Russo, I got another one for you. How about you just write better stories so I don't have to DM you and correct you all the time and teach you about the game that you cover? I mean, it's just kind of embarrassing.
No, I know. I totally agree with you. Maybe Brettmore. I should just give him Brett Blakemore. I should just give him my laptop, and he could write these stories.
I think you read the first time.
Yeah,
I can't remember.
Russo, I'm sure you'll be in the building tomorrow night when the Minnesota Wild take on the Predators on New Year's Eve. Thanks for joining us today on the show, though.
Yeah. I definitely think we need to start calling him Blake Brettmore, though.
We'll get on that. Thanks, Russo. You're the man.
All right. See ya. Take care.
That was Michael Russo of The Athletic, one of the best beat writers in all the country for any beat. He's the man. He's tapped in, and he's always awesome for joining us. Coming up next, we'll hear from Kevin O'Connell, who should be having his post-game press conference the day after. We'll carry that and hear what KOC had to say about the big win against Green Bay yesterday and the Lions coming up this Sunday. KOC after the break.
You wake up, put on your Ray-Ban Meta glasses. Classic style, innovative tech. You're living all in. You realize you need coffee, desperately. So you say,
Hey, Meta, how do I make a latte?
To make a latte, brew 2 shots of espresso.
after Meta AI gets you caffeinated, you start walking to work, and you need a soundtrack.
Hey, Meta, play hip-hop music.
With the built-in camera, you snap a pic of a dope mural on the side of a building that you think is worth sharing.
Hey, Meta, text my last photo to Eva.
Sending message.
After work, you head to meet some friends.
Hey, nice glasses.
Ray-Ban Meta glasses, the next generation of AI glasses. Just say, hey, Meta, to harness the power of Meta AI. Listen to music, make hands-free calls with open-ear audio and built-in microphones, and so much more. All while staying present to the world around you. Shop Ray-Ban Meta glasses at meta.com/smartglasses.
Wild Wednesdays are sponsored by Jim Beam, the official bourbon of the Minnesota Wild. They are here all season long. Listen every Wednesday through March for your chance to win tickets.
You're tuned in to the Progrum, a.k.a. another suggestion just came in, the Homie and Halvey show right here on KFAN. Max Fuller, Zach Halverson filling in for the common man, and Tenna Beasy. We are eagerly awaiting Kevin O'Connell's post-game press conference, the day after press conference that is usually carried here on these very airwaves. I'm curious to see what he has to say about the Green Bay win and the upcoming Sunday night football showdown with the Detroit Lions. But Zacho, it is New Year's Eve, and this is a time of year when everybody kind of starts looking back and getting reflective and thinking about the year that was. And to borrow a phrase from PA, I unfurled this a little bit when I was filling in for 9 to Noon about a week ago. But I'm curious to hear your thoughts on it. Is 2024, looking back on it, so I was trying to think of, there's all these year-end lists and stuff, best movie, best TV show, blah, blah, blah. And I do kind of want to talk about that a little bit later, possibly, if we got some time. But when I was trying to think of best sports moment, it just kind of dawned on me that 2024 as an entire calendar year might be the most interesting, not necessarily the best, but the most interesting year in Minnesota sports history. Because if you really think about it, even to go back to what we were just talking about, the Minnesota Wild with Michael Russo, at the beginning of the calendar year, obviously it wasn't great. They didn't end up making the playoffs, but they did have that super high of scoring, 11 goals in a game or something like that. To sudden a franchise record. And then now all of a sudden you go into this season, they're the surprise team of the NHL, one of the best teams in the National Hockey League when nobody expected them to do so. You look at the Minnesota Timberwolves. obviously, they had one of their most historic years throughout franchise history. They make a run to the Western Conference Finals for only the second time ever and the first time in 20 years since we were children. And not only that, they end up making a giant blockbuster trade, which, I mean, obviously we all have mixed opinions on it and it still has time to play itself out. But that just in and of itself is incredibly fascinating. And they're making moves. Obviously, the Minnesota Vikings, you part ways with franchise quarterback Kirk Cousins. You draft J.J. McCarthy. J.J. McCarthy gets hurt. You sign Sam Darnold. Well, you signed Sam Darnold before you drafted J.J. McCarthy. And now you're the surprise team in the NFL. You're one of the best teams in the NFL, and you have the number one overall seed in the NFC on the line on Sunday Night Football against the Detroit Lions. And then you just have the season that you're having. Even if you go to the Minnesota Twins, it was a terrible season for them, but it started with the whole payroll fiasco. It started with the whole TV fiasco. And now the season, you have this giant collapse after a ho-hum season. You have this giant collapse towards the end of the year, and the ownership ends up selling. So even that is fascinating and interesting in and of itself. And if you keep going down the line, the Gophers football team had a hell of a season. The Minnesota Lynx had a hell of a season and gave us one of the best WNBA finals of all time, one of the best basketball finals of all time. The Minnesota Frost win the first ever, what is the name of it? The Walter Cup?
Yes, that's it.
They win the Walter Cup in their first season. I mean, all across Minnesota sports, I'm hard-pressed to think of a single season or a single calendar year where more things have happened than 2024. It feels like the year that Minnesota stopped being quote-unquote flyover territory, as we're all very sensitive about here in the Midwest. And it seems like we arrived on the national sports scene in almost all of the core four sports. And I'm sure there's listeners that can text 64686 and chime in because, again, like we said at the beginning of the show, I'm only 31. You're about to be 30. We haven't lived as long and been sports fans quite as long as some of these other people who call in every single week to Fan Line and tell me they've been a Vikings fan since 1960 whatever or 1970 whatever. But just off the top of my head, I can't think of a single more eventful year in my mind than 2024. It's been a hell of a year across all of Minnesota sports, and it's just so fun to be relevant again.
Right.
It seems super rare that all of our teams are relevant or at least in some type of conversation all year round. It's so fun. It feels like what it must be like to be in New York or to be in Los Angeles or somewhere like that. And obviously we're not as big of a market, but we're always in it. We're always a part of the conversation now. And it's been, I mean, again, the most interesting sports calendar year in Minnesota history, I would argue.
Yeah, I mean, it was cool yesterday, to think that we had a sold-out U.S. Bank Stadium, a pretty much, if not fully sold-out XL Energy Center, and I don't know what the crowd was like at Target Center, but I'm sure it was very good, too, considering all of the traffic woes.
Right.
But, yeah, I mean, that's the cool aspect of this town, the fact that we have, separate arenas for our NBA and NHL teams, a lot of, markets where I believe the smallest market in the country that doesn't have that, have the same arena for both NBA
really?
and NHL. So, that's a unique aspect and allows us to, allows the basketball team to have a home, the hockey team to have a home, and you are able to pick and choose, which is kind of cool. And you can have these bigger events and that we're still able to, pack these arenas. So, and that's a testament to how both teams are doing. Despite the Wild's recent struggles, they still had a great start to the year, and there's, they're looking up. You have a superstar who happens to be injured right now, but is an absolute just killer. Kirill the Thrill is amazing. And then, of course,
you're a thrill guy too.
I mean, you got guys that my brother is a huge Kirill guy too. I'll tell you what his license plate is after the show. Right. But I think we got to get to Kevin O'Connell.
Well, we've already gotten started on our preparation. Obviously, there'll be some more tape that comes in tonight, and then we'll prepare and go try to win a football game. Just injury updates wise, I did get some really positive news on Pat Jones today. He'll have a chance to even possibly make it this week. We'll see how he works through it, but I'll keep you guys posted on that. Fabian Monroe continues to do well, and he'll potentially work back in throughout the week, and we'll make an assessment of where he's at. And then Aaron Jones is doing well with that quad contusion, and should not keep him from participating this week.
Kevin, you guys have been pretty healthy this year compared to a lot of teams.
Yeah.
Is that luck, or is that some kind of process that leads to better health?
We put a lot of time into, thinking about each week as its own, but also, myself, Tyler, Flo, some of Josh Hanks, we try to look at things in sequences. Hey, we had a trip to London. What's that look like, the week before? Then we have obviously the tight turnaround going to LA on a Thursday, bonus days here and there. Great times to put the pads on and get physical with an extra day or two to prepare. So we just try to be smart, make sure we're tactically prepared is always the number one thing. But I also think as the season goes on, we've probably been a little bit more cognizant of the fundamentals and techniques being something, even on the days we slow the tempo down for bits and pieces of practice, we're still getting full speed fundamentals and individual periods to make sure we're still working through, how to play the game as much as the schemes and things for that week. I think it's been important, but I think it's a credit to Tyler, Josh, just our whole sports performance group, and, our players, coming in on these Mondays and Tuesdays and taking advantage of the resources that we have, that we're blessed to have here. It's all part of what we want these guys to have at their disposal to be at their best, and it's been a positive, but it always is. There is a certain level of chance and luck to it as well.
Has there been any common trends to these last few games against the Lions? Since you got here, you guys got them in that first game in 2022, but since then they've gotten you guys. Is there any common trends that you can think of that have sort of popped up in those games?
Yeah, you can look at some of the big things like turnovers. I think have been critical. Turnovers, and then ultimately when you play a team that is so they're a complete team. They play well in all three phases. Dan has those guys absolutely ready to. They play physical brand of football. They're going to compete. They're very well coached across the board with AG and Ben, and special teams for that matter. So I think it's just any self-inflicted things you do against good football teams, it's going to be hard to win. And we've had chances to win games against those guys. We haven't always been at our full, capacity, whether it's TJ or quarterback or whatever it's looked like at the skill positions or on defense. So being relatively healthy at this point in the season is a big bonus for sure. But we're going to roll the ball out, and it's going to be 60 minutes of both teams laying it all on the line to try to be NFC North champs.
Kevin, what has Jordan Addison's footwork done for him as a receiver to help him beat coverage throughout the season?
Yeah, I think it's his route running ability was what jumped off the tape from college, both at Pitt and at SC, and totally different offenses doing totally different things in a lot of ways. But I think you pair his detail and what Keenan has kind of equipped him with in our system, and really the versatility, because Jordan's really the number one guy, Jordan and Speedy, on those known passing downs when we're moving Justin all over the formation. Those guys have to be able to play a lot of different spots. You look at Jordan, he ran a lot of routes off motion last night. He was in bunches, he was in stacks, he was, physical in the run game. He was, there was so much to really like that went beyond the box score, and I'm sure he's, still upset about the first deep ball that he, thought he should have finished. That was a tough play and a well-defended play by Nixon on that one. But I just think it's a combination of that, Ben, and then he's gotten stronger. He's able to play through contact, and it's a physical game, not just route running, just his role in the run game and his willingness to do that part of the job has been critical. And he's, I'm not sure what he's up to as far as scoring touchdowns. I think he's got 10 total now. But finishing plays in the red zone, he's had some unbelievable catches laying out for a few. Even last night, he had to go and get that ball, a really well thrown ball, but kind of a unique play there where he's stopping and then restarting again. Just all what makes him so special, he puts on display. And I've said this before. It was I commend him for really playing through the early part of the season, even though he wasn't at 100%. And now that he is, you can see his impact.
Kevin, did you know he had the aptitude to be able to apply some of like the motion stuff that he applied yesterday?
Yeah, I think getting to know him through the process, he seemed like a very football smart guy, and spent a lot of time with him on his visit when he came here before the draft, and just watching tape. Hey, what'd you call this? You know, how were you taught to run this? How would you run this differently if you could do it again? And just some of that dialogue was, I remember being pretty blown away by where he was at. And then, anytime I'm installing a play, and I'm going down the road of, probably, like you guys can imagine, overcooking it a little bit, I always look up and see him. He's got a pen, he's writing it down, he's drawing it up, he's asking Keenan questions. Justin's right there, and there's constant dialogue there. So I wouldn't discount just Jordan, but also being, next to Justin and Keenan every single day. He's constantly improved, and he was pretty darn talented when he arrived here. So very fortunate to have him.
On the touchdown with the sort of hook and then where you turn it up, I'm guessing there's be only a select percentage of receivers who could make that work. How much other stuff needed to go into that touchdown?
Yeah, that was a unique one. We actually kind of tweaked that play on Saturday. Just one of the last things I do. I get a chance to meet with the defense a little bit and flow on Saturdays, and then I get kind of a last minute meeting with the skill guys and the quarterbacks, and I made kind of a change to it that probably just helped the timing out a little bit to get that ball off, because I thought Sam stepped up really well, but he was, I think it might have been Cooper that came on a pressure all the way around the edge, and probably we don't get it off. And for him to just be able to take the verbal cues of that adjustment, really not get a chance to practice it again, and then do it in a pretty big spot there, is kind of goes with Alex's question. Just his ability to take some of those things and make it come to life is incredibly impactful.
Kevin, you mentioned the moment in the locker room yesterday with Sam.
Yeah.
Camera caught you kind of looking on.
Yeah, I tried to stand all the way up against the wall, but they still got me.
What's it like for you to watch kind of that scene unfold?
Yeah, it's obviously for Sam. We've talked a lot about just this year and from day one till now, and that moment, and just the countless times he's gone out there and played really well, played winning football. But also for our team, I think that moment was a super organic way. Sometimes this thing goes so fast, and you're, so caught up in the 1-0 aspects of things, and the day-to-day and the minute-to-minute, and this play and this adjustment and this coverage. For me, sometimes, I don't really feel a lot of those things until a moment like that, and I just so many different guys and the excitement level on their faces, and it meant a lot to us to play well at home this year, to win them all, but won by 2 points, and just the environment and the atmosphere, and I think the young folks call it the vibe. It's everything you work towards with a goal in mind of a lot of little things, a million little things that you think about kind of coming together in that moment. I was just proud of the guys, and of course for Sam, I thought it was awesome.
Kevin, Sam had a lot of clean pockets yesterday. I guess how do you describe the job that Chris Cooper has done with the offensive line, especially having to bring a new left tackle into the mix midway through the season?
Yeah, probably hasn't been talked about enough. That was one thing that jumped out watching the tape last night, and then with the staff this morning, was I thought the protection was phenomenal against a really good active front, both the interior and those guys on the edges. Once again, B.O. was phenomenal on the right side, and I thought the interior, really with the challenge that it was, those guys really stepped up. There were some big time moments where we stayed on the field via some conversions where Sam had to hold the ball to get from 1 to 2 to 3 to 4, maybe back to 3, hitting TJ over the middle on one of those conversions. I just think they were phenomenal, and I do think that's why even on a night where maybe our yards per carry wasn't huge, wasn't a big number, just the attempts and kind of being able to stay balanced enough that it wasn't just a pure chuck it, 60 times kind of game. And there's going to be some games like that with how, you match up and things like that, but to still be able to stay balanced enough, I thought was critical. And then those guys, really being pretty darn good on those weighty downs and those, plays where we had to block them. And, we were close even, maybe, the ball that got tipped that got ruled an incompletion. I mean, that's a millisecond away from probably being a 40 or 50-yard gain that maybe, puts that one away in that moment. But that kind of goes with the philosophy of staying aggressive, with how the momentum had kind of swung a little bit, which is going to happen. I would love to be able to say we're going to get leads and just keep building them, but these are really good teams we're playing, and they're going to make some plays. And I just thought the response of our team to ultimately not allow them to come back on the field was, critical.
Kevin, do you anticipate putting Daniel Jones on the active roster for the compensatory pick?
Yeah, we're gonna have some dialogue about that as far as the timing of it. Daniel's been quietly behind the scenes putting in some phenomenal work, and probably more excited, as I told him the other day, more excited now than even as excited as I was to get him in here day one, just by what he's shown us already. And so that's definitely, Kevin, something we're gonna talk about. I feel so fortunate to have with JJ really back full speed in those meetings. I mean, you walk in there, you got 5 NFL quarterbacks sitting there, and and Josh, sometimes if I blink and look at him, you can probably say 6. I'm not going to give Grant that kind of love, but I'm sure Josh can still sling it.
And then if that happened, just to be totally clear, would that affect, in terms of depth chart?
All stuff to be talked about. We really have not, as coaches, we've not really discussed that, other than making sure we got guys ready to roll, while also Daniel being on his kind of own individual plan.
George Metellus was talking about how one of the things that bonds him with Sam is the fact that Sam has gone through a lot of hurdles, but on defense, sometimes the defense guys don't see themselves in the quarterback, but he said a lot of us have had to overcome hurdles, and we see that in Sam, and so the defense has a bond with him that way. Have you seen that on many other teams, and what do you like about that? It's kind of a different way of bonding with your quarterback.
Yeah, I haven't really thought about it much, to be honest with you, but now that you mention it, I think that's probably a real thing. We have so many unique stories. I went through some of them with our team on Saturday night, just kind of making sure those guys knew, exactly kind of the headspace I wanted them in for Sunday, and part of that was referencing not only Sam's journey, but some of our other guys, and maybe you don't hear about them as much, but they've been so impactful to our team and how it's been built, and the makeup of our team. So I think that's valid, and I think it's a big part of why Sam's been able to have total and complete trust from our team, is they see him work, they see how he operates. It's the Mondays and the Tuesdays and late on a Friday, and then he goes and plays well, and he does it again and again and again. So I think that's real.
Kevin, how much appreciation do you have for the uniqueness of Sunday? I mean, potentially 2 14-win teams.
Yeah.
So much on the line.
Yeah, we knew. I mean, we've been, in the back of our minds, we knew we had to win a lot of football games to keep pace with a team that really has been, if not the best, one of the top 2 teams in the league for most of the year. And, we have so much respect for this team, and we know we're going to have to play one of our best games of the year to go win it. And it was just an incredibly, competitive game yesterday, and we know exactly what we're signing up for this week to go try to get it done. So it is unique. I'm not sure how unique as far as the historical precedent. I just know they're a damn good team. We're going to have to play really well to go win.
How do you go about it?
That's Vikings head coach Kevin O'Connell following the Vikings' 27-25 win over the Green Bay Packers, setting the stage for a Sunday night showdown with the Detroit Lions, with the NFC North and the #1 overall seed at stake. Short segment around the corner, and then we'll get to Ron Johnson and deep dive into all things Vikings. You're listening to the Progrum right here on The Fan.
You wake up, put on your Ray-Ban Meta glasses. Classic style, innovative tech. You're living all in. You realize you need coffee, desperately. So you say,
Hey Meta, how do I make a latte?
To make a latte, brew 2 shots of espresso.
after Meta AI gets you caffeinated, you start walking to work, and you need a soundtrack.
Hey Meta, play hip hop music.
With the built-in camera, you snap a pic of a dope mural on the side of a building that you think is worth sharing.
Hey Meta, text my last photo to Eva.
Sending message.
After work, you head to meet some friends.
Hey, nice glasses.
Ray-Ban Meta glasses, the next generation of AI glasses. Just say, hey Meta, to harness the power of Meta AI. Listen to music, make hands-free calls with open-ear audio and built-in microphones, and so much more. All while staying present to the world around you. Shop Ray-Ban Meta glasses at meta.com/smartglasses.
Yeah, you can join me, Zach Elverson, for a World Juniors watch party. Drop in to Tom Reed's Hockey City Pub this Saturday at 2:30 to catch the third place game with me. We'll have free appetizers during the first period. We'll have drink specials, tons of prizes, including tickets for next year's World Juniors and a signed Lou Nanny jersey. Full details at KFAN.com, keyword calendar. It's going to be a very busy, very fun day because the Frost play down the road at the X at 1. And then, obviously, the World Juniors bronze medal game it starts at like 2:30. The gold medal game will be after that at some point. And then the Wild play that night.
Dang.
So I think at this point, I'm setting up basically to just set up shop at Tom Reed's all day and all night.
Yeah, you might as well start paying rent at that point. That's a hockey holiday.
Don't give Tom any ideas. He can collect at any point. Probably tomorrow if he wants to.
Max Fuller, Zach Halverson. Short segment here before we get to Ron Johnson. Speaking of the World Juniors, Zacho.
Yes.
I know you like to keep track of this type of stuff and keep your finger on the pulse of the up and comers, the cutting edge of hockey. How is the World Juniors faring out so far?
Very entertaining. We've had some crazy upsets. Latvia took down Canada the other day. That was
Canada never loses that kind of stuff, right?
Not in that round. Not the teams.
Not to Latvia.
Not to Latvia, but I don't know. We're trying to figure out exactly if Latvia is just that good, or if Canada is just maybe having a more down year. But it's really entertaining hockey. Yesterday, the United States went to overtime. I'm going to get this wrong, and people are going to get angry. I believe it was Finland. I'm sorry. It was like doing 3 different things yesterday.
Yeah, seriously.
That's the whole
like a million screens up there at the X.
But it was actually cool because I was able to watch. Before the doors open, when they can do it, they had the Vikings game on the big board. So I was watching there, working, had the earpiece in, listening to PA and those guys about 2.5 minutes before you saw everything on TV. That's the one negative part of this job. I love listening to PA. I love those guys, but
we got to be able to sync it somehow.
It's really tough on your brain. You end up just not watching it.
Yeah, no, I was just about to say, I end up not actually physically seeing. There's so many times I'm scrolling Twitter and I'm like, when did this? I'm like, oh, I heard it.
Yeah.
I just didn't actually see the Justin Jefferson touchdown. I just heard it because it's so far ahead. At least 3 plays, I would say.
Yes, at least.
And so you're not even paying attention. You can't, it's impossible to pay attention to both at the same time.
In the old days, it used to be about 8 to 10 seconds. And so the play would happen, and I guess the best example, and Tenna likes to bring it up every once in a while, much to my chagrin, but the Minneapolis Miracle. We heard it happen here.
Oh, no.
And I was cheering.
Yeah.
I was going, we had to wait to actually confirm that's actually what we actually saw.
Right.
Or actually heard, I should say. But yeah, it's one of those weird, I wish there could be some way we could get maybe a private, at this point, just get Abbott or whoever's at the stadium, Hawk. He just needs to FaceTime us.
Yeah, seriously. Yeah. So we can see it live with the PA commentary.
Because I really don't watch a lot of football, Vikings football.
No, I mostly listen to it.
Yes.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, that's why yesterday it felt weird because it felt like I was watching the broadcast from home because it was an afternoon game, and it felt like it was the first time I actually heard a full Tom Brady game call.
Yes.
All season. And man, he's kind of a he's got a little bit of a mean girl syndrome thing going on. Like it's very much, I can do this. Why can you not do this? Like Sam Darnold completed some pass. And it was, again, completed. And he was like, that was a subpar pass, but guess that's what you need sometimes. That's all you need sometimes is a subpar. It's like little shots like that here and there. I was like, damn, Tom, I didn't know you were so passive aggressive. He's got a little bit of a mean girl thing going on. I appreciate the honesty, but he's definitely not far away enough from the game that he knows when to utilize said honesty.
Did you hear how he says the word sacks?
No.
Listen to this. If I can pull it up.
One of us.
And he's taken a lot of sacks. I think almost 46 sacks this season. Taking a lot of sacks.
Socks.
What is that?
Yeah, like he's not from that's got to be just hanging out in the New England, Boston area for so long.
He's taken a lot of sacks.
Socks. I've never heard anyone say it like that before.
But if you go on the mean girl, like, my God,
oh my God,
taking a lot of
socks. Yeah, Tom Brady. Put your hands down.
Like, it sounds like how Becky's friend and baby got back would say it.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Look at that. Well, I can't say that.
Look at those socks. Oh, Tom Brady's got some Valley Girl in him. He's got some Mean Girl in him. But I didn't hate it. I mean, it wasn't compelling. I'd much rather listen to someone like Kevin Harlan or someone like Greg Olson, maybe.
My big issue with him is the whole ownership thing, and
it is weird. Yeah,
him not being a part of the pregame meetings. They come in usually a day or two ahead of time and meet with the coaches. He can't be a part of that.
Really? Oh, because of the ownership.
Correct.
Thing. Oh,
and so he is oftentimes, I wouldn't say not as prepared, but a little bit. I mean, he forgot yesterday in the Open. He was talking about how the Green Bay Packers had lost to the Lions twice and the Eagles, and then he couldn't remember the fourth.
Huh. I wonder.
Maybe it's the team you're calling behind you.
Right. And I mean, a quick Google search would have did you some good there, Tom.
I mean, that's the thing. I'll give him some benefits of some doubts, but also at some point you're making an enormous amount of money. You need to be good. And I'm very skeptical how good you can be if you're not getting the information that everybody else is. And those meetings are important. They have broadcast meetings for the Wild, right, where only the broadcasters are talking to the coaches.
Slip, like you said, you slip in those stories and that information that only you have. It's like, oh, well, Sam Darnold told us this and this and this, or Aaron Jones said this game means more to him because of this and that and this, where Tom Brady just doesn't have that, and he's just operating. The whole thing just feels like, I am Tom Brady. Let me cook. And the broadcasters are feeling that they're like, he's Tom Brady, let him cook, but they gotta. Maybe take the spatula away for a little bit. Shorten the leash just a little bit, and then maybe let him cook more on. Because I feel like we're in the minority in saying that he's even decent. A lot of people are not digging the Tom Brady calls whatsoever.
Yeah, I'm just, like I said, I'll give him some time.
Give him some grace. He's the
but I will say next week, obviously they're going to have Mike and Chris, but you have two of the top play-by-play announcers on radio going at it. I've been begging NBC to feature PA forever for multitude of reasons. They need to have cameras in both booths because it's fun actually watching some of the Lions stuff too. Obviously, the Vikings put their videos together, and I look forward to. I'm sure they're going to put something special with PA, but they really good announcers coming up on Sunday. No matter how you're taking the broadcast, and we hope, of course, you choose the fan.
And you can listen on the free iHeart Radio app if you're not listening in your car or on an old school radio. I don't know if anybody even has a physical old school radio anymore, but you can listen to us anywhere you go for the free. And you can also listen to Vikings Fan Line following every game, and you'll hear the voice of Ron Johnson, former Gopher great, former NFL wide receiver and Vikings expert. We'll talk to Ron about the big win yesterday, some general NFL topics, and more. Last hour of the Progrum coming at you next.
You wake up, put on your Ray-Ban Meta glasses. You're living all in. You realize you need coffee, so you say,
Hey, Meta, how do I make a latte?
Brew 2 shots of espresso.
After Meta AI gets you caffeinated, you're ready for some beats.
Hey Meta, play hip hop music.
You head to meet some friends, but can't remember the place.
Hey Meta, call Eva.
Ray-Ban Meta glasses, the next generation of AI glasses. Just say, hey Meta, to harness the power of Meta AI. Shop now at meta.com/smartglasses.
It is Ryan Seacrest here. Everybody needs some variety in life. That's what I love about Chumba Casino. They know how to keep things fresh and exciting. All their games are free to play, like spin slots, bingo, and solitaire. You can claim free daily login bonuses, too. And they release new games every week. So spice things up with ChumbaCasino.com now for your chance to redeem some serious prizes. Sponsored by Chumba Casino. No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 18 plus terms and conditions apply.
Experience sensational sound with Vizio's Soundbar Collection. Starting at just $99, there's a soundbar for every budget. With Dolby Atmos in every model, cinema quality sound is closer than ever. This collection features Vizio's simplest setup yet, so you'll be streaming your favorite iHeartRadio playlists in no time. Whether you're looking for a simple setup or the cutting-edge Elevate SE with 360-degree sound immersion and auto-rotating speakers, Vizio has you covered. Head to Best Buy or Amazon to find the perfect Vizio soundbar for you.